What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another Wavez Game Review video. Today we're going to be reviewing Pragmata. I actually beat Pragmata a couple days ago and was just waiting to do a review so I could gather my thoughts on it more because it was definitely an interesting game. But one thing I gotta say before we start this video is I bought it on the Switch 2 because I barely play single player games on my Switch 2, and I heard it ran really well on the Switch 2, and I just wanted a game where I could kind of just sit on my couch and chill to. And it was great. I mean, it ran at a consistent around 50, 60 FPS. On handheld, it looked a little iffy. But on docked mode, it looked great. It looked just like what I would assume to be console. And while I probably could have gotten a lot more frames on PC, I'm still glad I bought it on Switch. But this is gameplay from YouTube because I don't have a working capture card right now, so I didn't record me playing. So this is just gameplay from YouTube of the Switch 2 version of Pragmata. But anyway, let's get right into this review. The first thing I want to talk about is gameplay. Of course, as most people know, the gameplay of this game is extremely innovative and very unique. You have Diana's hacking and you have Hugh's normal shooting, but in order for Hugh to actually land powerful shots that actually do damage and actually do relevant damage to the enemies, so you could actually pretty much kill them, is for Diana to hack them. So it's not like hacking is optional. You have to hack the enemies in order to do any large amount of damage at all. And even Diana's hacking just by itself does a lot of damage because there's different mods like heat and a lot of other different mods like defense and stuff like that that could build up with Hugh shooting when you shoot in the hacking. But her hacking even by itself does a lot of damage. You can make a hacking build in this game and do a lot more damage hacking than you would do shooting. And it's really cool because in a single player game like this that is pretty short, around 9 hours I think, you could have a lot of options gameplay wise, and it really centers the game gameplay wise and doesn't put you in long cutscenes. And I'm not saying long cutscenes is a bad thing, but this game is mainly more focused on the gameplay and rather a lot of intense story elements. I do also like the difficulty scaling over time. It's really cool how the enemies with the dead filament are attacking you and you have to use the new cleanse ability to get rid of the dead filament and stuff like that. One thing I didn't like about the cleanse ability is it just took way too long to charge. I know you could charge it over time and make the radius bigger, but combat in this game is really fast paced and you're having to hack and dodge in very fast intervals of time, and you can't risk just standing still for a minute or charging up for a minute because the enemies, especially the later enemies, they're moving all over the place, they're dodging all over the place except for the bigger ones, so you don't have really time to do that, especially when you have to dodge away from you because they're doing attack every couple of seconds. So I wish they would just make the charge time quicker. I don't know if there's a power up or a level up for that where you could just decrease the charge time, but just by default it's really slow, and I really wish they just would have made it better. But it's cool how they also integrate like new abilities with puzzles. Like when she gets the cleanse ability, you're able to take away the dead filament, and there's also the different type of like crystallized Luna filament, I forgot what that one was called, that she's just able to take away, and you have to unlock it throughout the game, so it gives you reason to go back to the other places to want to do that. It's a better part of the progression, of course. There's a lot of just well thought out gameplay stuff, I mean, that you would see in other games too. I mean, it's not like it's the most innovative thing with like these new found abilities that you're having to use on older stages, like having to go back to them, like I said. But the combat, as well paired with a little bit of these puzzles, I guess. I mean, they're not really puzzles, it's more just like exploration. It's really cool, and I like how it's a lot of unique stuff. It's very different from what a lot of games do, but here's I'm going to get on the next thing. The loop feels a little bit basic, and when you think about it a little bit deeper, it doesn't. This is just me. This is just my opinion, but for a short game like this, you expect a very unique, diverse environment, and it is unique and diverse. But one thing that is not unique and diverse is how you're constantly exploring like this on screen right now, like this just futuristic type of lab. It looks the same throughout most of the part. Of course, with like New York, you have all of the buildings and stuff, and then you have the moon base area where it's outside on the moon, and then the final area where it's like all corrupted by dead filament. That stuff's sick. It's really cool, but it gets really repetitive, especially when you're using practically the same guns, because it will give you like a new gun and be like, oh hey, look at this new gun, and it'll be fun to play with for a little bit, And then you just realize, well, this gun kind of sucks because I have to upgrade it so much. And all my other guns are a lot better than it because I've upgraded all these other guns so far. So there's no point in using it until you upgrade it. So it just gives no point, and it kind of makes the game feel boring and repetitive, but also gives you a sort of like, oh, this is a cool new gun. I gotta grind. I gotta get more Luna filament to make this gun better. So I guess it gives you that type of thing, but for a short game like this, it's just not something they need to be adding. If it was a longer game, maybe so, because, you know, a longer game with a lot more stuff to explore, and you have a lot more encouraged side questing or side exploration, I guess. But this game is very linear and only has a couple side things to grab, like REMs and stuff like that. But for a short game like this, again, it's just doesn't need to be there. And while it can be a little bit repetitive, it's really cool because you obviously have the new combat that I talked about. But when you think a little bit more about it, it's really not repetitive. It's just the way you experience the game, because you could just go on through the game, guns blazing, not going towards anything, just going straight towards the objective, not looking for any REMs, not looking for any collectibles, none of that stuff. And you could probably finish the game very shortly in time, therefore making it more repetitive. But this game encourages you to do side stuff. It encourages you to do the training missions. It encourages you to do the REMs, because Diana will like give you the little drawings for, which I really like. And it's just encouraged to explore and loot stuff. So I like that, but a lot of players don't have the attention span for that, especially when a game as popular as this. More than 75% of the players, I feel like, are gonna have like this brain rot, TikTok, like a horrible attention span. So they're not gonna want to be doing that. And I'm not like that. I'm not saying I'm like that. I took my time playing this game. I very much did. I looked around the atmosphere. I enjoyed the graphical fidelity. I had a great time playing this game, and I went for a lot of side stuff. I would grind to find those REMs, just like find a way to get to them. But a lot of people, I'm just saying, don't have that type of patience. And this game does appeal to a mass audience, obviously, by the reviews so far. People have been loving this game. But for some people, I feel like they just wouldn't like it because of that. But surprisingly, we have a lot of good reviews, but there's some people who probably that doesn't appeal to. Just saying. I just feel like they could have thought about that in the game development stage, but it's all how you make a game. This game is also really reminiscent to Dead Space, like really reminiscent. It's not really any horror, except for like those invisible guys that will like pop out of nowhere in the dark. Those are kind of scary a little bit, because like at first you really didn't expect them, especially when you like first encounter them. But this game is really reminiscent of Dead Space. The combat, especially the more slow-paced shooting, not the hacking, of course. That's the unique thing about this game. But all the enemies, all the combat style, that's not the hacking, is very reminiscent of Dead Space. And I like to see more games like this where it's like explores the more themes of like cosmic kind of themes and stuff like that. You don't see many games like that nowadays. You see a lot of futuristic games, but you don't see many cosmic games like this. And I really like that, how Capcom is venturing out that with new IPs. But just a little warning here before we move to the next part. I want to talk about the story, but there's going to be some pretty big spoilers when I talk about it here. So I would skip this part if I were you, if you don't want to hear any spoilers. But the relationship with Diana and Hugh, I really did like, but it just felt kind of dull at times. The voice lines, there's not enough of them. And the voice lines are very, very, very repetitive. Diana says the same things over and over again. And like the last boss fight, when you're fighting 8 in her like super angelic robotic form, whatever that was called, she says the same things to 8, and 8 says the same things to Diana. And I'm not nitpicking the game because they don't have enough voice lines, but when Diana says the same things, especially like in the bunker when you ran out of voice lines to talk to her about, it just starts to feel kind of dull. And look, the relationship between Diana and Hugh, it was perfectly well formed. In 9 hours, you were able to form such a well relationship between these two characters and get accustomed to two of them. But there's just things that they could have added in this game's super long lifespan. I just feel like they would have thought that. And I feel bad comparing this game to Requiem, like Resident Evil Requiem. But it's so different. I mean, of course, it's just Capcom being the publisher. It's two entirely different developers, probably. But it just, the dialogue and the story feels very, very different. And like I said, this game was in development for many of years, and that could be the reason why. It's just, I feel like sometimes that the story can feel kind of dull, and definitely the acting was not there at all times. But look, I'm accustomed to playing Death Stranding, a literally photorealistic, absolutely cinema of a game. You could call that a movie. And Metal Gear games where the acting is like on point with some Hollywood movies. So I can't be calling a more combat-based game, like, judging it off of its character acting. It's pretty stupid. But I did go into this game thinking it was going to be like a lot more story-based. But it is more combat-based. I'm not mad about that. I'm definitely not mad about that. I love the combat. But the story is very sad. I mean, one thing that kind of angered me is Capcom is starting to hide their true endings behind like these walls almost. Because the true ending of the game, and I searched this up, is where you have to play the game twice in order to unlock the true ending and do a certain series of events. I forgot exactly what it was. But I got the normal ending as everyone did. And as if you beat the game, you're going to get the normal ending. No matter what. It's no matter what you do, because there's only 2 endings, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's where Hugh is infected with the dead filament, and Diana says she can't do anything about it. Hugh didn't directly tell Diana, but Diana had said she couldn't do anything about it, and just said, okay, I'm going to send this girl to Earth because Hugh can't fit in the storage thing anyway. So he sends Diana to Earth, and Diana's all sad or whatever. Hugh died in space all by himself. Or did he? No, he definitely did. But the true ending is where Hugh apparently does not die. I'm not entirely sure how it goes. But I have a lot of games on my queue right now that I want to play, so I don't really replay games right now, like, a lot, because I have so many games in my Steam library that I buy and I just leave sitting in there. So I try not to replay a lot of games or go for a lot of side stuff unless it's like one of my really favorite games like Death Stranding. But it just kind of angers me. They should always make the true ending the easiest one and the best one to get, unless you're like someone like Yoko Taro and Nier Automata. But overall, although the progression of the story felt basic at times and dull in some moments, Diana and Hugh had a great relationship, and it forms a father-daughter bond like you never really see in games nowadays. And it's really emotional and really gets you attached to these two characters, and I'm really glad Capcom decided to make a game like this. Especially, you even have like mother-daughter type of thing with Grace and Emily in Rec Room. It's really cool how they're kind of adventuring into bringing like a family relationship into video games, because it hits people hard, especially with people who have like really close relationships with their family. When you have something like this, it's just really wholesome to see in the gaming community that stuff like this is being brought to light, and a lot of stories are doing this instead of just maybe love stories. I'm not hating on love stories in video games, but it's unique. It's something new that I'm glad Capcom is trying. So overall, the story for me is definitely great, and I would give it an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. One thing though is I did not expect this game to blow up like it did. I saw a lot of trailers and I didn't really see people really talking about it. I'm like, oh, this game looks cool. It looks like this or whatever. Like, people were saying, oh, it's another Capcom IP, and I really didn't think people would pay attention to it. But I'm guessing because of the hype of Requiem, a lot of people did come to this game, and because of the advertisements it had. And it was also in development for many years and had multiple development cycles. We even saw a whole entire different redesign of Hugh over that development cycle, and possibly even different changes to the story. We didn't really see much about that, but the game got delayed a lot and then undelayed. It was just a big development cycle. I don't really know how it went. I didn't really do too much research on that, but I know it was delayed a bunch of times. But I'm really glad to see a game like this get a lot of popularity, because I did not expect it to, and it's just another hit from Capcom, and I really hope they do more than just one game with this IP, because they could definitely expand this game into multiple entries. The graphical fidelity is great. The graphics look fine. As I said, I played it on Switch, and in docked mode, it looks practically one-on-one with consoles when you look at the other console comparisons. I didn't get it on PC, so I don't really know how it looks on PC, but I'm sure it looks astounding on PC. Probably even not that different from the consoles. But the art style is great. One thing with the art style is it gives you this kind of vibe of a corporation. Delphi in the game has built this big moon base, and they're using all of the moon-based protocols to mine Luna filament for their own profits, which I would assume would be brought to Earth one day and used for profits or whatever. It's a corporation. Typical corporation is the evil person type of scenario. We saw that with the doctor guy, how he wasn't allowed to go back to Earth to see his daughter and stuff because the corporation would not allow him to leave. But overall, it's a really cool design, and it gives you a backstory to think about because it has like all that kind of corporate, like strict design all over it, if you know what I mean. But I've been going on random rants about a lot of stuff in this game, and I think I've done a pretty thorough review so far. So I'm going to give this game a confident 8 out of 10. I rated the story an 8 out of 10, and I'm not just rating the game an 8 out of 10 because of the story. I think the game genuinely is an 8 out of 10. And it's truly a unique experience with the combat and the story as well, with like a dad-daughter type of story and all the world of the Pragmatas and all that type of stuff. You could tell this game was inspired by tons of different video games like Dead Space, even Nier Automata with the Pragmata system, and a ton of different games that I could probably go on for hours mentioning. And it's a great... And I totally recommend giving Pragmata a try. It's a great game if you're looking for kind of a balance between innovative combat and a great story. So definitely check it out if you have the chance, and I hope you all enjoyed this review. And if y'all have been wondering why I don't put out a lot of reviews on games so often, first of all, I've been replaying a lot of older popular games that I was really young when I played them. So that's a lot of the reason why, and a lot of games that I just feel like aren't really worthy of a review on my channel at least. But I'm going to start pumping out some more reviews soon on a lot of games that even might not even seem like they need a review, just random games I play. So hope you all enjoyed today's episode, and have a good one.